Imagine looking out from the docks of a thriving colonial city, expecting to see merchant ships laden with goods from London or the Caribbean. Instead, you see a blockade. Not by a foreign navy and not by a rival power, but by a fleet of outlaws flying the black flag. The year is 1718. The place is Charlestown, South Carolina. And the man holding the entire city by the throat is the most notorious criminal in the history of the high seas. Edward Teach, better known to the world as Blackbeard. Most of us know the legends. We know the smoking fuses woven into the beard, the cutlass, and the buried treasure. But the story of the Charleston Blockade isn't a tale of high seas adventure or a swashbuckling duel. It is a story of psychological warfare, political paralysis, and sheer, unadulterated audacity. It is the moment when a pirate stopped hiding in the coves and declared war on the British Empire itself. And the reason for this siege? It wasn't gold. It wasn't silver. It was a wooden chest filled with medicine. To understand how a single pirate could hold an entire American colony hostage, we have to look at the world of 1718. This was the twilight of the Golden Age of Piracy. For years, men like Benjamin Hornigold, Charles Vane, and Blackbeard had operated out of Nassau in the Bahamas, treating the Caribbean like their personal hunting ground. But the winds were changing. The British Crown had sent Woodes Rogers to the Bahamas with a choice: a royal pardon for those who surrendered, and a hangman's noose for those who didn't. Blackbeard, however, was not ready to retire. By May of 1718, he had amassed something rare for a pirate: a fleet. He wasn't just captaining the 40-gun flagship, the Queen Anne's Revenge. He had a flotilla of 3 smaller sloops sailing alongside him. His crew numbered nearly 400 men. This was more firepower than the Royal Navy currently had stationed in the American colonies. In late May, this pirate armada appeared off the coast of South Carolina. Charlestown was the jewel of the South, a wealthy hub of rice and indigo trade. But geographically, it was a trap. The city sat on a peninsula, and the harbor entrance was guarded by a sandbar known as the bar. Large ships had to carefully navigate the channels to enter or exit. Blackbeard didn't need to attack the city. He just had to park his ships across the bar and wait. The trap snapped shut almost immediately. The pilot boat which guided ships into the harbor was the first to be captured. Over the next few days, 8 more vessels attempted to enter or leave the port, unaware of the predator lurking in the fog. Blackbeard captured them all. Among the prisoners was a man named Samuel Wragg, a member of the governor's council. This was a stroke of luck for the pirates. They hadn't just captured sailors. They had captured high-value political leverage. Inside the city, panic began to set in. Charlestown was effectively sealed off. No food could come in. No trade could go out. The newly arrived governor, Robert Johnson, looked out at the harbor and realized he was helpless. The city's fortifications were in disrepair, and he had no warships capable of challenging the Queen Anne's Revenge. The colony was paralyzed. Then came the message. Blackbeard sent a small boat toward the town. On board were a few pirates and a prisoner named Mr. Marks. They were escorted to the governor with an ultimatum. The demands were shockingly specific. Blackbeard did not ask for a ransom of jewels or Spanish doubloons. He demanded a medical chest from the city's apothecary. Why medicine? The reality of pirate life was far less glamorous than the movies suggest. Blackbeard's crew was rotting from the inside out. Living in squalor in the tropics, many were suffering from dysentery, yellow fever, and most pressingly, syphilis. The medicine Blackbeard demanded likely included mercury, the standard, albeit toxic, treatment for syphilis at the time. The great terror of the seas was being brought to his knees not by a cannonball, but by bacteria. The terms of the negotiation were brutal. If the medicine was not delivered, Blackbeard promised to murder all the hostages, send their heads to the governor, and burn the captured ships. He gave the city a strict deadline. The governor had no choice. He hurriedly gathered the supplies. But here, the story takes a turn that highlights the chaotic nature of pirate diplomacy. The governor entrusted the medicine to two of Blackbeard's men, a Mr. Richards and a Mr. McDaniel, along with the prisoner Mr. Marks, to return to the fleet. But they didn't return immediately. While the hostages on the ship sat in terror, wondering if they were about to be executed, and while the governor paced his floor, Blackbeard's emissaries were taking their sweet time. The pirates Richards and McDaniel were effectively enjoying shore leave. They were seen swaggering through the streets of Charlestown, drinking in the taverns and openly mocking the citizens. The audacity is hard to comprehend, pirates drinking with their victims while their captain held a knife to the city's throat. Back on the Queen Anne's Revenge, the deadline passed. Blackbeard was not a man known for patience. He moved his ships closer to the town, his cannons run out and ready to fire. The populace was terrified. They weren't just afraid of the pirates. They were furious at their own government. A mob formed not to fight the pirates, but to pressure the governor. They made it clear that if the hostages died because of the governor's inaction, the governor would be the next to face their wrath. Finally, the hungover pirate envoys returned to the fleet with the chest of medicine. The blockade had lasted nearly a week. The ransom was paid. The city held its breath. Would Blackbeard keep his word? He did, but he added a final sting of humiliation. He released the hostages, including the prominent Samuel Wragg. But before letting them go, the pirates stripped them of everything they had. They took their money, their jewelry, and even their fine clothing. The wealthy elite of Charlestown, the power brokers of the colony, were forced to row back to the docks nearly naked, shivering and humiliated, while the pirates laughed from the rails. It was a masterstroke of psychological dominance. Blackbeard had proven that the laws of the British Empire did not apply to him. He had stripped the colony of its wealth, its medicine, and its dignity, all without firing a broadside into the town. Having secured his mercury and his reputation, Blackbeard weighed anchor and sailed north toward North Carolina. But this victory marked the beginning of his end. The blockade of Charleston was a bridge too far. By holding an entire city hostage, Blackbeard had shifted from being a criminal nuisance to an existential threat. The humiliation of Charlestown galvanized the colonial governors. Virginia's Governor Alexander Spotswood, in particular, decided that the pirate threat had to be extinguished at any cost. There is a cynical postscript to this event that suggests just how calculating Blackbeard really was. Shortly after leaving Charleston, Blackbeard arrived at Beaufort Inlet in North Carolina. There he ran the Queen Anne's Revenge aground on a sandbar. It seemed like an accident, but many historians argue it was intentional. By wrecking the flagship, Blackbeard had an excuse to break up the band. The plunder from Charleston and previous raids would have to be split among fewer men if the crew was smaller. He marooned a large portion of his crew on a desolate island, took the most loyal men and the loot onto a smaller sloop, and sailed off to accept a pardon, briefly retiring before his final, violent death at Ocracoke Island 6 months later. The blockade of Charleston remains a singular event in American history. It was the high-water mark of the Golden Age of Piracy. It strips away the romanticism and reveals the grim reality of the era. A time when a group of sick, desperate outlaws could stare down an empire and win. For 1 week in May 1718, the most powerful force in the Americas wasn't the Royal Navy or the colonial militia. It was a man with a black beard, a chest full of mercury, and the nerve to hold a city for ransom. Thanks for watching. If you learned anything, or if I at least entertained you today, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing. The almighty algorithm decides who gets recommended my videos based on the amount of views versus likes and subscriptions. I wish I didn't have to ask, but please do consider pressing like and subscribe.